Welcome to the Business of You podcast, the show dedicated to helping service entrepreneurs build a better brand to grow a bigger business. I'm your host, Michelle Griffin, and I'm here each week empowering you to put yourself out there, sharing actionable tips and inspiring stories so you can create your personal brand, grow your dream business, and build your future, all while making more income and more impact doing exactly what you love. I'm super excited you're here. Now let's get going with today's show. Welcome, everybody. Thank you all for joining us. I am so incredibly honored and excited to have my guest here all the way from the UK, Mr. Ash Rathod. And do I pronounce your name right, Ash?
Yeah, it's Ash Rathod.
Rathod. Okay, great. And you have it with such a brilliant English accent that I wish I could talk. Let's see. Everyone here, we're talking about the power of storytelling for personal brands. And we have here Ash, who is Mr. what? Hashtag Story Ash? Yes?
Story Ash, yeah.
Story Ash. Ash, tell us a little bit, introduce me. Well, I'm Michelle Griffin, by the way, a personal and professional brand strategist. I am so excited to be here with Ash. Tell us a little bit about what you do and who you help.
Yeah, and stop me because I do tend to ramble as well. And I know we've not got a huge amount of time and I really want to just give loads of value to the people listening. But yeah, a bit about me. I run a brand and content studio in the UK, which I've been running for the last 12 years. Brief history going way back and where my love for storytelling comes from is, I'm showing my age here, 20 years ago. At university, I did media communications, but I specialized in script writing. So that was script writing for film, TV, and radio. And, even as a kid, I was very much into the creative stuff, whether it was art or writing stories or playing make-believe like most kids, But also at university, I was really switched on. I was a film buff. I loved my films and I was really into script writing. And I wrote a couple of scripts from what I learned at university. And my final year dissertation was a script. I'm telling you this because after university, when I left, my lecturer phoned me and he said, "Did you ever get development funding for that script you wrote?" And I was like, "No, I didn't even know what development funding was." And it just made me think that, that it really resonated with the lecturer. And it's something that I wanted to do. I wanted to get into film. I wanted to be either a director or a writer. I wanted to be the next Scorsese. But what happened then was, just like, everyone, when they finish uni, well, mostly everyone, I hope, they don't know what to do. They don't have a clue. So I was looking for a work and I saw this advert in the newspaper and it was a job in media sales. And I hadn't got a clue what media sales meant. It was a sales job in a TV company, one of the biggest terrestrial TV channels here. And I just took that job because I thought I'm going to get into a TV company and I can get through the back door of production or writing somehow. But then that didn't happen. I basically fell into sales and I did quite well with sales as well. Fast forward a little bit, I moved up the career ladder in media sales. I worked with different creative agencies. I managed advertising accounts of millions and with clients like Disney, Warner Bros., Toyota, quite big names. Again, fast forward, I moved into digital media. And then 2009 was a real pivotal moment for me because it was the global recession and I lost my job. And I've written about this as well on LinkedIn. I lost my job and I set up my own company, and it started off as a digital marketing company. I partnered up with a few people, another company, and I then, again, fast forward a little bit further, when we kind of had our differences and I started my own, it morphed into something else. So yeah, here we are. I'm still running that agency. I've got a small team that look after corporate clients across the US, UK, parts of Asia. And very recently, I've started doing a bit more on LinkedIn. And that's how the journey has started
Yes,
for me
you've
with
had
Tim.
an amazing journey. When did you start? For those who don't know or have never gone to Ash or follow him, you have to go check out his About page because it says it's a great story. And I remember it. It says you were called out for not doing your own thing. Like we all help our clients, but then when it comes to us, we're so busy. Probably why I kind of ditched the mixed up the link here, which, by the way, I did put the new link. So if you want to go to my profile, I have our new link. So I apologize for those who are waiting in the back. Michelle's doing it all. But anyway, you said this story. Oh my goodness, I wasn't doing it myself. So that's when you made that commitment. I'm going to start telling stories on LinkedIn. Is that how you got really out here and everyone knows you as
Yeah.
Story Ash?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was in a group with a couple of younger creatives and and clients as well. Basically mentioned to me, I've always talked about the personal branding being an important thing and how you should really build that online, and that's the new thing. That's what you should be doing. But I
Uh-huh.
wasn't doing it myself, and that's how I got called out. So I think it started off initially as a 100-day challenge, and I think you're not the same 100-day challenge, but
Yes.
I started a similar one, and I started on Instagram. But I just found Instagram for me at the time, it was so difficult because I felt it was just a saturated market.
Yes.
And then what happened was I actually wrote a post that was quite a therapeutic post for me on LinkedIn, and it was a little bit of an accidental post because I wrote the post, it was about my vitiligo, it was about my skin changing, and the reason why I decided to write that post on LinkedIn was because I felt like I needed to get this out of my head. It was something that was troubling me, and it was affecting my business life and my personal life as well, my confidence. And I basically thought I need to speak to someone, but I'm not the type of person that really lets things out that
Yeah.
easily. So I rather do that in the form of writing. So I wrote it on LinkedIn, and I thought, what's the worst possible place I can write this post? And I thought LinkedIn is it's a stuffy corporate
Yeah.
place, and I just don't really care much for it. Sorry, LinkedIn, but I love you now. And yeah, basically I put that post out and I closed my laptop, and the next thing I kind of instantly regretted it.
Really?
Yeah, I thought, what have I done? This is a business site, this is a
Yeah.
professional site, and I've wrote something that's just nothing to do with business.
Did you think about going to delete it or
I
you just let it
did.
go?
I did. I think I just like let it go and then instantly stressed about it. And then the next day I just
Yeah.
thought, okay, well, let me just open my laptop. And the most amazing thing happened. It basically changed my perception of what LinkedIn was,
Yeah.
because I got tons and tons of messages
Isn't that
because of
great?
that post, and it I felt like so many people resonated with that post, not because of there were loads of people with vitiligo, because that wasn't the case. It was the message behind that post and the story behind that post.
Mhm.
And here's the thing, although it was a post that I kind of put out there, I naturally write in a story form. That's kind of because I love writing and I kind of write like that. And there was an underlying message that really rallied people. I got messages like, oh, this post changed my life. Just to give you a
Wow.
bit of context as well, that post, I wasn't that consistent, but my post usually did about 400-500 views, and that one post did about 80,000 views. Um,
80,000. Oh my goodness. That's a
yeah,
huge jump.
it's a
Wow.
huge jump, yeah. And
Yeah.
the thing is, for me, it wasn't about the views; it was about the people that were talking to me, and I knew a load of people resonated with my story, and that was the important thing for me. It was the story that I told that others were experiencing emotionally. And
Yeah.
so I thought, this is something different about LinkedIn and social media generally. And in
Yeah.
hindsight now, I think, it doesn't matter what platform you're on or what medium, whether it's a blog, video, YouTube, or wherever. If you can connect with people, that's the thing that you want to go for, those human emotions.
Exactly. So that brought you to storytelling, and that's like your whole brand is, your hashtag story Ash. And I know you have like a course and all to help solopreneurs tell stories. So for everyone listening here, the fuel of our brands, the fuel of our profiles, are our posts, our content. Now, my post the other day said, if you can tell a good story, you'll always be successful, not just on LinkedIn, social media, really anywhere in business, because people will pay attention. So why is storytelling so important to us here on LinkedIn and to social media and our businesses and our personal?
Yeah, I think storytelling is the core of human connection. And I think it has been for thousands and thousands of years. And I think it will not change. I mean, the way we tell stories and the platforms that we use and consume stories, I think that will obviously change. For example, you might see here the start of a story on LinkedIn, and you might then see the middle of the story somewhere else on a blog or on a website, on a YouTube, but you're seeing this whole big narrative about this one person. But it's these themes, talked about the human emotional themes, those things won't change. And I mean, if you think about, cavemen around a fire, however many years ago, it was all about them telling stories to each other, trying to make sense of the world and each other, keeping each other safe and out of danger. And I think obviously we do it differently. We're on these smart digital phones, but we're still telling stories, but we're still connecting with people to understand each other in terms of our relationships with each other and, helping each other, whether it's inspiring each other, educating each other, and, maybe even entertaining each other.
Yeah, no, all of the above, right? I mean, and then today in our attention economy, we have so much going on, content overload, all the things. When people want to do content and write stories, because it's something I want to do more. I'm a story brand certified guide, but to tell the story and the content is a whole nother thing. And the concept of story is really kind of vague and misleading. People don't understand what it really is. They know it's good and they listen. If you tell someone, let me tell you a story, it's so interesting because we're just hardwired. We'll start paying attention, just hearing those words. In the context of personal branding, content, and social media, how do we tell people? We're going to say, I'm not a storyteller. I don't have anything good to say. Where do I start? And, how do I do it? I'm worried about other things. What's your take? I know you have this course and this framework, which you don't have to share here, but what are some of the overarching ideas we should start with, Ash?
Well, what? I'd actually love to share it. It goes a little bit deep, but I can simplify it for people here. But I suppose let me kind of go back to what you initially said about the differences between just posting thoughts and anecdotes versus stories, what the difference is between that and a story. So for me, very simply, a story is about transformation. It could be the transformation of a character in your story that has a desire to achieve something, whether that's a physical thing or a mental thing or an emotional thing, and they have challenges to overcome, the conflict. So that's the very simplistic version of my framework. Is like a 6-part framework. But if anyone was to take away I suppose the definition of what a story structure should be, it's like this beginning, middle, and an end, and it has those parts. And I think it's the character, the desire to achieve something, and the conflict in the middle. It doesn't also, that character also can be, it could be you or it could be someone else, but ideally you, especially when it comes to personal branding, if you can relate anything of, in the past of what you've done, achievement, or when you were a kid, and then relate it back to something that might resonate with the audience, with the message, then that's a perfect story and that's a perfect bit of content. It could also be, the transformation could also be changing someone's perception or understanding of a particular topic. For example, I'll give you an example.
Yeah, definitely.
The other day I posted something about, and it was a little bit of a cheeky post. I started it off with, I think it's important to be transparent, but I'm going to tell everyone how much I make. And then the story went on, and I actually was talking about how much curry I will make for guests that will come up to my house. And it's initially the perception is, someone's going to think I'm going to be talking about money, but then I'm actually talking about curry I'm going to make. And then the end message is be yourself and stop comparing to others. So there has to be that kind of underlying inspirational message.
That's awesome.
And then the other, if you wanted to go deeper on a character, I've written a post about, my vitiligo post is one, that talks about a transformation, my emotional transformation, but it also talks about my physical transformation and the things that, I was having an issue with. So the character is me. The conflict is my skin changing and it affecting me mentally, and it's affecting me, my business life. And then how I overcame that challenge was because I had a conversation with one of my clients, and they, really made me feel okay about just being myself. And then the end message was, it's okay to be yourself. And once you embrace that, it's the best thing you can do. And it's like, really kind of inspirational and it rallies a lot of people for different reasons. And that kind of is a story structure. You can do that on loads of social media platforms, but LinkedIn's great because you've got a restriction. So it really challenges you to make it really tight.
Yeah, 1,300 characters. I know they're rolling out 3,000 to some people and across the board, but I don't recommend using 3,000 all the time. That's a lot. You want to be as tight and succinct as possible. People think story is just saying, I went down the street. That's not a story. That's just telling a fact. You got to get that hook, the conflict resolution, and the point. So in a minute, we're going to tell people about this framework so they can use it. Anyway, where do we get started, Ash? Because so many people want to tell stories. I mean, that's a gift, to be able to tell a story, but it's a gift, but you can also learn it, right? Where does one go to get the stories? And then where is the most important part to start? Can you help us explain that?
Yeah. So are you talking about the ideas and, thinking of the stories?
Yeah. Well, I guess that's a two-part question I just loaded you with. So let's start with, where do you want to start? We should start with how to set it up. Would that be the best way as far as like a social media post?
Yeah, I mean, it could be a social media post, or it could be a video on YouTube, or it could be a written blog. But I think if we've kind of briefly mentioned it, like I go through a 6-part process, and I call it a 6P framework, and it's basically the protagonist. It's their present state. It's their problem. Then we talk about the problem state, and then we talk about the pit state, which is the emotional state, the issues that they're going to have before they get to the other side. And the very other side is the power state. The part where they getting to the power state is the progress state. And I know there's a lot of information there and it's overwhelming. And I can't go into full detail right now in the next 10 minutes. That's why I thought to simplify it, it's basically a beginning, middle, and an end. And the 4, these elements actually come from the Hollywood
story writing, right?
Story writing, yeah. And the reason why it works is because we're kind of used to these stories. We're used to almost like, if you don't stick to those formulas, I know it's a dirty word, but those formulas, then your stories just don't land. It's because we're kind of hardwired to
for story.
Story, exactly. Yeah, so those elements would be...
What are they again, Ash? I was writing these down. So the first one is a protagonist. The second one is present, in the present state. The third is the problem,
Yeah.
And then what is 4 and 5? I think I didn't catch those.
There's the pit state, which is the emotional state.
Like I'm in the pits. And then what's after that?
And then it's the progress state. Where they're actually coming out of the pit.
Yeah,
And then the other side... So basically, if you think of it as a valley, so you're on one side,
6, I got it, the power state.
And you're getting to the other side is the power state, where you're transformed and you're empowered, or the character's empowered.
That's great.
Yeah, so the simplified version is basically think about your character, and it could be you. Think about a time, a really important time in your life. And actually, you know what? I shouldn't say really important time in your life, because I think that's where people get stuck with stories. They probably think that I haven't got any big stories, but stories are everywhere. Like, it could be, you might have had a conversation, like I might have had a conversation with my daughter, but then there was a lesson I took from it. But it might have been a problem I solved, so that you can use that kind of framework in that little story. I remember writing a story about when I was a kid. The end message was that I wanted people to take away was the thinking outside the box and thinking like a kid. And that was my main message. And I remember the time when I was little, we used to draw these Garfield pictures, or my brother did, and we were selling them in the playground. And we were making loads of money, and it wasn't loads of money. It was like 5 pence, 10 pence, but enough to buy enough sweets on the way home. Right. But we got stopped. We got told we couldn't sell these things in the playground. And what we did was we weren't allowed to sell in the playground. We weren't allowed to send in school time. So what we did, we ended up standing outside the school gate after school and selling them there. And that is a story with a message that think outside the box, something simple like that. And I think I think you asked the question was like, people might think I'm not a storyteller. I've not got any stories. I think the real problem there, not the problem that you think you've not got a story,
Yeah.
is that you think that the story you tell won't be interesting to other people. I think that's the main thing.
Yes. Totally.
And that, more often than not is not true, because I think people just like to learn about other people generally and
Oh
other
yeah.
people's stories.
That is awesome. Yeah, we're human, we're curiosity. And our last remaining minutes, because I really want to respect your time and everyone else's, what's the actual takeaways people can do? And actually, you want to talk about your idea about that content writing? Do you want to tell everyone about that?
Yeah, I think I would love to see if anyone has got any ideas of a story, and if they can think of a character, a conflict, and a problem, and the desire state that they got to with the end message. I
Yes.
would love for someone to try that formula out. It's very simple. Write it out, whether I think LinkedIn, because we're all on LinkedIn, and
Yeah.
maybe
And tag you and
tag
us.
me and tag you, and
We want to see
yeah,
it.
we'll have a look and we'll support that post, and I'll give you some feedback as well.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's so great. So here, everybody, if you're hearing this, Ash, who, if you can go follow him, he's amazing. I mean, all this stuff gets so much engagement. But here we are, he's offering, if they're going to start doing this and giving like a live writing, they would start with a protagonist. But in the context of LinkedIn or a social media or anything, you need to start with a hook 'em headline, is what I'd say, right? What is your best advice, Ash, for the opening line to get that attention?
Yeah, I think I read a stat somewhere where we see like 4,000 to 5,000 messages a day,
I
and
believe it.
when people are scrolling through their phone, it's like, what's going to stop someone? What's going to make someone, like stop and think, oh,
Stop the
that's
scroll.
intriguing.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it could be anything, but there's a fine balance. I would say make sure that it's not clickbaity, because that won't
Yes,
do that won't win you any more viewers, because they'll
exactly.
just bounce off your content. But I think it's that thing that will stop them scrolling, but also want them to read more. It gives
The
a
read
little bit of
more.
a hint about what that might
Yes.
be.
I like that because you want to be interesting, intriguing, but nothing is worse when we read a clickbaity headline, fall for the click, fall for the read more, and it's just nothing like it, the headline, right? That's the worst thing because then you're going to lose the trust and no one's going to
Exactly.
do it again. But like, I like try to just have like a really factual, good statement. And then I like to use the words, and I think as you are just getting out with your content, to use a headline that speaks to others, not always like I this, I that. Would you recommend that, or what's your thoughts? Because I know if you're telling a story about yourself, should you spin it in the headline about other people, then bring it in about you? How would you work
Yeah,
that?
it's always good to tell a story of where you were previously, or something showing a little bit of vulnerability, because I think when
Yes.
you write something that presents you in a superior state,
Yes.
people are less likely to resonate with you. But when you talk about kind of the things that people are actually struggling with, and you've been there, but then
Yes.
here's the takeaway, and this will help the person reading it. That's a real powerful story, because I know we didn't really talk about this too much, but that's the thing that will, from a neuroscience point of view, it'll activate things in your brain, like things like empathy.
Yes.
And once you activate empathy as a hormone, that's when strong stories become a lot stronger, and that's when you start building trust. That's ideal for personal branding, because that's why we tell stories. We want to build trust, and we use empathy to do that.
Empathy, but here's the thing, because Ash and I had this wonderful deep dive last Friday for 90 minutes. We talked about all these things. And we talked about you want that empathy, you want that relatability, some vulnerability, but you don't want to go too off the other end, because then it's like, oh, well, how can you be the guide and help me when you're farther down? You know what I'm saying? So you want to lead with empathy and authority, as we say in StoryBrand, but empathy, authority, credibility. But, because you should always make your reader the hero and you are the guide, right? As we say in our
Absolutely, yeah.
frame. One of the questions I got today, and I apologize because I forgot to attribute who asked it. She wants to know, and this is a lot of people have this problem too, including me. How do you make a really succinct story post, where it's not, a book? Because no one has time to read books anymore, sadly, on anywhere, but especially on LinkedIn. What are your best strategies for shortening the story?
I think it's like with anything, like almost, you've heard the phrase in design where you take away more than you add. And I think especially with some, short form storytelling, whether it's Twitter or it's LinkedIn, I think make sure that you focus on that one message. If you try putting too many messages, you're going to confuse the audience, and you're going to lose track, because you can write the different messages for different stories and different bits of content. But so yeah, keep it succinct by just focusing on that one message. I think just take away some of the fluff. It's a fine balance, because I'm a big believer in adding detail and zooming
Yes.
into detail, because it helps people
Sets the
feel, and
scene
that's what you want
too.
to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes we get obsessed with trying to add loads of fancy vocabulary, and it
Yeah.
kind of deviates from the message. It's like the fine balance. And what I usually do, can't remember what the saying is. It write hot and edit cold, or the other way around? Either way, what I do is just write loads, and
And then
then
come
I
back.
just strip it down and just keep
Yeah.
stripping it back.
It's like writing a book. You got to dump it out and then edit it. And, I've done that before too. I've gone back and taken words out of my posts, which I know editing is questionable for the algorithm and stuff. But this has been amazing. And I just want to thank you. I know you have that hard stop, and I want to be respectful, but this has been so amazing to have you as a premier guest talking about storytelling for personal brands. We could go on and on forever. But for those who want to follow you, Ash, should they just follow your hashtag Story Ash, or follow your account?
Story Ash, or just
follow your account.
me, just through my profile. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, well, follow him. I would so appreciate it if you like this or comment it, so we can help and get the traction and get more people out there. I'm going to be back here every week at this exact same time with amazing guests, helping you build your personal brand with guests and stories and all kind of trainings and good things. Today was the first of many, and I look forward to seeing you all here. And I can't thank you enough. So Ash, all the way from the UK, thank you so much, my friend. I appreciate it. It's good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for tuning in today. We definitely need more impactful entrepreneurs like you out there. So if you'd like to learn more about how I can help you build your personal brand to grow your business, please check out yourbrandyourbusiness.com. And until next time, you have a brand to build, a message to share, and people to impact. Now go put yourself out there and watch the business of you grow.